And then when you think about a homesteader, in my opinion, that's someone who doesn't think about profit at all. It's just sustainability aspect of it, right? It is cultivating the land, stewarding the land, raising your own protein, cooking from scratch, just this idea of everything. Yeah, so I'm Jill Ragan. I own Whispering Willow Farm with my husband Nathan and our 3 daughters. We're located in central Arkansas. We are on a little over 4 acres, primarily growing flowers and vegetables for our family. We sell cut flowers to a few local markets. We're adding in CSA subscriptions here on the farm and some on-farm events, so that's fun. But yeah, we're mainly just growing food for our family, and then we're growing flowers to sell for profit.
And occasionally writing a book.
Oh yeah, I did that. Also write a book. I do a lot of online education. Really community though is that is the pillar of our farm and our business is we really want to bring people along and show them that, hey, our family did this, your family can do it too. Even if you're not selling food or flowers, this is just such a valuable lifestyle. If you're thinking about sustainability and you're just thinking about food security or even just, feeling confident in your ability to grow food, cultivate land, steward the land, that's so important to us and raising up that next generation. So we're huge advocates that everyone should grow food to some degree, just to nurture that part of them.
Yeah, and that's really why we made the trip to come and talk to you, because we want to find out and we want to dial down with you, and you said it perfectly, the lifestyle.
Yeah.
So this is not quite a business, but it is. It's not quite a 100% journey into sustainability and growing your own food, but it is. To me, homesteading is this intersecting of multiple aspects of both growing and life, raising a family, and just straight up living outside of the norm of what most Americans would do.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to talk about. So I'm going to ask you the same line of questioning that I would any other farmer, in that at some point every farmer has their taproot story of, and for a lot of people it's just a single plant. They got a plant and along the way that has changed their whole lives. So was there a specific moment where this seed was kind of planted, at least within you?
Yeah, for me, I was sitting in a plant science class in college and came from the cattle side of things. I rodeoed through high school and college, and I was sitting there and I had to do my first presentation in college ever on a coffee farmer. And one of my friends had to do it on a vegetable farmer. And because I came from that cattle farming, ranching side of things, I was so naive. I just grew up very disconnected from the food around me and how all that worked. And I was like, you mean people can grow food for a living? They make careers out of this? And for me, that is the moment I became aware. And I'm one of those people that when you become aware of something, you're held to this standard to take action. And for me, that changed everything. That literally changed the trajectory of my life. I went home, I tilled a plot of land in my suburban backyard. I planted way too many seeds, stuff rotted on the counter. I had no idea what I was doing. But that was the moment that I came aware and was like, I have got to do better. I've got to plant seeds. I've got to figure this out. And it's literally been this decade-long journey ever since.
That's interesting that you said it that way, because you and I, we've been friends for a minute, so we're going to shorthand a little bit. But it's we know that some of the people that we talk to, new people, new gardeners, new growers all the time, I'm sure you're skewing more homestead and that kind of thing, but there's this sense of dread about every single little thing. Beginning, you did everything wrong too, and I'm sure that's a sense of relief for a lot of people, because whether you're homesteading, farming, getting into hydro, no matter what it is, it's this constant, you just have to get in it and make mistakes. Yeah. No matter how much you research, no matter how much you learn, it never ends.
Yeah, for me, growth isn't failure. And so early on, I felt really defeated when I failed. And then through the years of doing this, I actually welcome it, right? Because I know that every time I fail, there's going to be a breakthrough for something new. I'm not going to have to make that same mistake again. And so now I feel like a lot of planning goes into, a successful season, whether you're growing for your family or you're growing for profit. But for me, I just don't put as much weight on myself. It's there are some things where you can control, and let's, put in these efficient systems to where we are setting ourselves up. But then there's other things you can't control, and that's okay. You just got to say, hey, this doesn't define me as a grower, as a gardener, as a homesteader. It's just an opportunity to get better and do it better next go round.
So saying all those definitions, a grower, a farmer, a homesteader, a mom, career woman,
Yeah.
no matter what the case may be, we do overlap universally. Anybody listening to this, whether you're interested in homesteading or not, there's these universal truths. At any given moment, we are whoever we need to be for whoever is on the phone, whether that's a spouse, a kid, business partner, a client, a vendor, and navigating all that on a homesteading level, which is why we're here, is it's a different type of financial pressure in that everything is super expensive. And are we bringing income into the farm or are we not? Are we doing this to save money? But how much upfront infrastructure cost in? So I do want to dive into the economics of homesteading a little bit because it's going to be all over the place for all people, right? So every house is going to be different. Every piece of land is going to be different. The journey in and out of town is certainly going to be different. And I think a lot of folks think that they have to have everything perfect in the beginning, just like most farmers do. This notion of if we're thinking about homesteading or thinking about making a life change because of any and all of the reasons that can draw you into this, it's okay to start small. And it's okay to get there gradually over time.
Yeah, in fact, I wrote a whole book about the benefits of starting small and staying small. I actually think that that's the biggest downfall of most people, right? Is they always feel the need to scale it. And when you scale it, there are a lot of obstacles and hurdles that happen. And sometimes, you could have been more profitable. You could have grown more food for your family if you stayed on a smaller, intimate level because it was manageable. And something too is homesteading means something different for everyone, right? Like my definition, your definition, another homesteader, it's all different.
And it could change.
The quality of life, right? The reason I chose this to grow food, to grow flowers, to spend time with my family was to raise children aware, right, of where the food comes from, how it's grown, to not just be okay with the societal norm of where you get your food and not asking questions, but also it's quality of life. We wake up together, we cook meals together, we eat meals together. That to me is super important. And when you start scaling this so much that you're spending all your time, feeding animals, harvesting animals, butchering, processing, are you really keeping that quality of life that was your intention to begin with? Or are you stressed and overwhelmed? Are you getting frustrated with your family? Are you, dreading these tasks? And so for me, I do feel like there's that sweet spot of how do we continue to grow? And this is how we're making our money. So for our family, we're a bit unique. So how do we still bring in money, but then how do we still maintain quality of life and the value that we want to spend time with each other? We don't ever want to get too busy to where if our kids ask us, hey, can I help you do this? We say, no, we don't have time for that, right? And so again, it's evaluating what are your goals for your homestead and how do you really make that work? But this idea of scaling, there's a lot of money involved in that. There's more work, there's more labor for yourself, maybe something you have to hire out. So for me, I always find that there's a lot of issues that can come when you start scaling. And is that really what you want to do?
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was just like early last year when Nathan was able to come on Nathan, your husband,
Yes.
was able to come on full time and leave that second income and what all that meant for the farm.
Yeah, that was huge. It was really hard for me to manage that by myself and him just working here on the weekends, because then that had him working 7 days a week. And it's just really hard to do that. And now that we are home full time together, we're able to prioritize things a bit more. And even right now, we're shifting our farm primarily to flowers and we're figuring out we're going to have to do this in stages. Otherwise, we're going to spend more money than what we're bringing in. And that doesn't make sense. So how can we do this in stages? Putting up the high tunnel was a huge thing. We knew, all right, this is going to be X amount, but this is the profit potential that this is going to bring in. And so those are things that you have to evaluate when you're bringing something in. Is it going to be fruitful in the yield that it's bringing your family? Are you reducing those costs at the grocery store or the farmer's market? Or do you have an outlet to maybe sell some of these things? And that's always just in question and emotion before we make any new decision on the homestead.
Let's bring it back just a little bit to that spark and that moment again, sense of panic and dread that some people have, like, oh wait, I don't know where my food comes from. Is the shirt I'm wearing done sustainable? Yeah, because I feel like for you guys, it's not just the food; it's everything that is surrounding and a part of your home and a part of even the way you travel. I mean, it's like it's not just the food; everything has an impact.
Right.
And given that so many folks are coming into homesteading from that sustainability and as you like to say, intentional and conscious we're all consumers. We need things to live. What are some early steps people can do to maybe start learning, but not have that sense of dread, not have that? Some people may have a sense of guilt. Some people may over-index and go so far off the deep end that they kind of lose who their current self. Not that there's not a metamorphosis that can happen, but I think people in these early moments have a tendency to go down some wild roads that sometimes may not be necessary.
Yeah, for sure. I think knowledge is power, right? I remember when I was dreaming of the farm and I was still working for someone else, and I would listen to podcasts, I'd read blogs online. I think that's huge, is because you're not going to be able to do it all. And in fact, we just talked about when you go all in, you get really overwhelmed, and that's when life starts dying, or maybe crops start failing. Like, there are detrimental effects that happen when you just dive head first, right? But I understand being aware, and
we all
then
do it.
right, we've all been there. But then it's like you figure out the problem, you want to take action, and everyone wants to change everything all at once. And I feel like that is where a lot of us struggle, and I think it's normal. So I think that being okay with saying no is really important. Of like, no, I don't need every animal. Maybe let's figure out like, what animal does my family eat the most, and maybe let's just raise chickens. Or, what vegetables am I buying at the farmer's market? Let me just learn how to grow tomatoes really well. And then maybe next year I'll add in some peppers and some basil and everything to make salsa or diced tomatoes. And for me, you have to be confident in your ability to learn to be comfortable saying no. Like, no, actually, I don't do it all. And I'm okay with that, because the things I do well, I do in excellence. And that is something that I went all in.
I know community is such a big part of how you just do everything. And so that saying no also is a yes to somebody else in the community, to maybe they're doing the bees, maybe they're doing the dairy.
Yeah, and then work in collaboration. We have friends coming over next week. We do this every single year, and we ferment together. We grow all the food, but it would take Nathan and I days. That's our primary way of preserving our produce on our farm, is through fermentation. It's just the way we love to eat. But it would take us, with as much as we grow, about a week to ferment it all. And that's a lot of it's a lot of process. So we will invite friends to come over, share the responsibility with us, give them half of what we've done. And it's a great way that it's benefiting them. They're seeing the value in it. They're just now starting their garden. So they're saying, oh, well, what fermented foods do we like? Maybe we should grow kohlrabi when we've never really thought of that before. And so don't feel like you have to do it all. Maybe find someone who's growing a component and you're growing a component, and y'all have a canning day or something like that. But I think every time you talk to a farmer, homesteader, grower, they're always going to tell you, well, when I first started, I tried to grow all the things, I went all in. And most of the times they have stories of where they had to dial it back. They had to reevaluate, and they had to start smaller. And I think that that's a beautiful place to be in. And I think that through the years, I've just felt confident in that, of, hey, we're a small scale farm. We're a small homestead. I'm okay with that. We're still growing all of our family's vegetable needs. We're only eating protein grown on our farm. That's huge. And we're on very small acreage, but we're very diligent with what we grow. We have successions in place. Like, we have all the systems we need to be successful.
And these systems weren't overnight. It took all these years to get to those systems.
It took years.
And I'm sure there's going to be refinements next spring, because you learn something every single time.
Every single time. But I didn't know that until I started reading books, listening to podcasts, finding those mentors that were anchors for me, that were also advocates for small scale farming, right? That was huge. And so if that's what you are aiming towards, don't follow, this large production farm or this homestead that's been doing it for 20 years. Find someone who's a step ahead of where you are to show you how it can be done. But I knew that was the goal for my farm. So I started following all of those intensive market gardeners and figuring out, well, how are they doing it? What are they teaching?
I love that, because we're really interested in Bootstrap Farmer about, we're here to serve small to medium-sized farms, right? But then we have this influx of home gardeners that are starting to dial in and get super serious.
Yeah.
And they're saying to us, look, we don't have to buy garbage anymore. Like, this is a serious hobby for us. And no, we're not at the homesteading level, and we're not at the farmer's market level. We'll probably never sell anything, but we don't want to have to like rebuy everything every single year like some gardeners have to do. So in your book, you do talk about, there's hobbyist growers, there's homesteaders, there's market farmers. I would like to have you dive into that just a little bit, to it's okay to be one of those or in between those, and that's all going to come at different times. And the intention that I
Yeah.
always have in conversations with you, because those intentions change, but it also is like a north star to point to. And so as people are looking at themselves and what they're responsible for in their family, and perhaps a little income or perhaps their whole income, I think it's important to go, I'm just a gardener. I enjoy doing this. I don't want it to be work.
Yeah.
Or I would like to feed my family. Our goal that we may or may not hit or sometimes exceed is going to be X amount for Homestead. Or, hey, we need to plant 100 rows that's going to yield this so we can make an income.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for me, I think I view the hobbyist as someone who, works outside of the home and gardening is a hobby, right? They're tending to it maybe on the weekends. It's a form of therapy, relaxation. It brings them peace. Maybe they just have like a couple beds or a small plot in their backyard, right? Like that is how I feel like I got started. I was working on a cattle farm full time. I was going to school. And it was just something I came home and it was fun to go see, hey, what's growing, right? I mean, I didn't weed properly. I didn't preserve anything. It was just this fun thing that brought me joy. And then when you think about a homesteader, in my opinion, that's someone who doesn't think about profit at all. It's just sustainability aspect of it, right? It is cultivating the land, stewarding the land, raising your own protein, cooking from scratch, just this idea of everything you produce or grow, for the most part, you're trying to produce on your homestead. Maybe that's your full-time job, but more than likely you also work another job. And then when I think about that farmer, it's someone that is growing for profit. Profitability is the main source of revenue for their business and their family, whether that's CSA, farmers market, their wholesale to restaurants, and I know it kind of looks different, right? Because we all can identify as something like that, but that's how I would kind of categorize those, in my opinion. Of the farmer, that's their full-time gig. That is what's bringing in all their income. That is the goal. The homesteader, for their family, sustainability, food security, to be less reliant, etc. And the hobbyist is just a fun thing to do.
we're in this society where everything has to be a side hustle and everything, how are you going to, it's okay just to have a hobby.
Yeah.
This is not something to stress over. What are some things that you've tried along the way that would be able to be put in a homesteader bucket that did not work for you guys and then you moved on from?
Yeah, so even just recently, we got into dairy goats. That was a very homesteader thing to do. Was, if you're going to be sustainable, you have to have your own dairy animals. And I actually loved having my dairy animals. However, goats are extremely finicky. They ended up having a parasite. Both of my dairy goats died within a matter of a few months. Like, we did everything. I put so much time and energy and resources into those goats, and it was devastating. And I had people, again, it doesn't matter how far along you are on this journey, there will be people that warn you. And so there were a lot of people that warned me, you don't really want to get, goats are finicky. That's just this demand. I was like, no, I can do it, right? It is one of those,
Sure, I can do anything.
I'm a homesteader. I need to have a dairy animal. And I loved it. Gosh, I really did love it so much. But it ended up being very difficult. We travel quite a bit, speaking on small scale farming. And so finding someone to watch your dairy animals, and it was just one of those things. And so I had their 2 offspring, and I was just like, is this one of those things that my pride tells me I need to do it? Or is this actually bringing life to my family, right? Are we actually offsetting what we're having to buy from the dairy down the road? And the truth is no. I was still having to buy milk from the dairy down the road because my goats weren't producing enough for my family's needs. We weren't able to make cheese or sour cream or any of the goals we had set for our family. And so for me, that was sitting down and evaluating, I did this because this is what everyone else told me I needed to do.
Well, and that's the thing. You not only is it the building of the infrastructure and tending to the animals and then doing the milking, but then you have to do something with all that stuff.
Right.
And so it's more and more chores.
Right.
And it's nice that you can sit back and evaluate, is this worth the time, or should we just support the other local dairy?
Right. And the truth was, too, is when we set intention for our farm every year, and when we set intention for our farm in the new year, we're putting a huge emphasis on flowers. And we're like, to do this well, we have to evaluate the other things we're doing. Do we have the time freedom to maintain quality of life, quality with family, and still be strapped to all these things? And the truth was no. So when we evaluated that, we set our intention for the new year, I ended up selling the 2 kids to someone who, that's all she does. She's a hobbyist and she loves having goats, and this is a fun thing for her. And it's like, oh, you probably do have the time freedom. And so that was one of those lessons learned, and we've cut back a lot on our animals. We kind of went all in, and we had a lot of animals, and now we've cut down our pigs, we've cut down our sheep, and realizing that, again, more is not best. What is manageable? And when you start to evaluate feed costs and what we can buy from another farmer, we were realizing our costs, like these pigs we were raising, were outrageous because we had so many of them that we weren't even saving money at that point. So then you had to do a lot of evaluating. So we got rid of a lot of our pigs, and we have made our herd a lot smaller to where it's manageable. It's actually going to be profitable for us to be raising our meat instead of the other way.
And it allows you time to do more profitable things.
Right.
So a minute ago you said that's a very homesteady thing to do. Glad you said it like that, because homesteading in particular, we spend a lot of time, checking out social media and being a part of that community. But homesteaders, like, it seems like there's a lot of expectations put on each other in following somebody. You're in a very unique position in that you are somebody that people follow. People follow your friends. You're, to some degree, what people are chasing. What is your advice for people that feel like they may not be enough, or that they're not, well, I'm not Jill yet, or I'm not Roots and Refuge yet. I'm not this aspirational thing, that's not their journey.
Yeah, man, comparison is thief of joy, right?
And I'm sure you still do it.
So hard. I think especially starting out, and I can use this example because she's a dear friend and we've talked about this. I was friends with Jessica at Roots and Refuge well before they were who they are now, right? And so I got to watch that whole journey, and she was always one step ahead of me, right? And there were moments where I was chasing the same opportunities as her, and doors got closed in my face while doors got open for her. And you're in a unique situation where it's like, this is my friend, and I'm so happy for you, and you deserve all this success. And then I'm gutted because I have to be happy for you when I'm not there yet. And I'll be honest, that was a very unique season. And I think I questioned myself a lot of like, will I ever make it? Will I ever be at that level of success? And what I realized is that I wouldn't, because Jessica's success is not my success. And the doors open for her aren't the doors that should open for me, because we're each unique and we each offer something so valuable. And I felt for so long that to be successful, I had to be what she was, because at that time she was kind of it for the industry, right? There was the Justin Rhodes, but then there are the Jessica Sowards. And like, when you think about that, the Joel Salatins, the fundamental of homesteading, those are probably the top three names, Rhodes, Salatin, Sowards. Respectfully so. They've worked so hard. They built everything. And I had to ask myself, is that really what I want to be? Or do I want to pave a road for myself and it be something different? And so instead of saying, this is what I'm achieving, I want to be just like, the Rhodes or the Sowards or the Salatins, I'm like, no, I want to be just like me. And I want to be authentic, and I want to do things intensively. I wanted to show homesteaders that they could adapt professional growing techniques and have more abundant yields. And what I've learned through the process is I actually didn't agree with a lot of the things I saw people doing. And so why would I try to do something and aspire to that when my goals for my family were totally different? And so I played into my strengths, and I realized, okay, I can't do this. I can't worry about what anyone else is doing, because if I'm constantly chasing their success, I'm never going to be true to who I am, and I'm never going to find my own real success. And I think at that moment, having an authentic conversation with myself of like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like I can't have success? What do I feel like my hindering block is that's preventing me from being successful or having the garden that I want or writing a book or etc.? And I realized it was my own limitations. And once you can speak life into yourself, I realized at that point, like, I can be my own cheerleader. And when you understand that, sky's the limit, right? Because I'm not looking for people on social media to make me feel better. I'm not looking for Nathan to say, hey, you're doing a good job. You're doing what you need to do. I'm waking up every day knowing what my expectation for myself is, and knowing that no one gets to limit that but me. Once you realize you hold that power to see life for yourself, to see abundance for your farms and your gardens and your homesteads, it's empowering. You're like, nothing's going to stop me. So for me, I think it's so important just to run your race, right? Like there's one thing in drawing inspiration, which I still do. Jessica's one of the most inspiring people you will meet. Like there's just something about her that's electric. And I love talking to her and I love seeing what she's doing. And there are so many other people I get so inspired by. And I can be inspired by them now, and it doesn't dictate what I do. It doesn't make me want to change the trajectory of my farm or my goals or my aspirations. And so I would even encourage people, if you are finding yourself in that season where you're comparing, right? Maybe you have imposter syndrome. Maybe you just step away for it. Like maybe you just silence those notifications. And there have been seasons where I've had to do that because I don't want to run anyone's race but my own.
I get into this a lot with farmers that are, especially a year or two in. And I remember, I know now to ask these questions as we're talking to people and working with farmers, because I had this moment, I want to say it was about 10 years into having my landscaping business, and that I realized I am wired so much differently than my wife. When you have a landscaping company, you have a lot of time on equipment to just sit and rattle around in your own head. And so she came home and I said, when you get off of work, like, what do you think about at work? And it was like, not that she didn't understand the question, but it was like, what do you mean? I'm like, when you get home, like, are you still thinking about work? And it was like a solid no, like the most solid no I think I've ever heard anybody say. And we talked about it and I kind of just thought about it internally, but that moment of realization that I remember asking her, is it exhausting just that I am unable to ever shut off? And she says it was in the beginning, but I just, she got used to it, right? And she just knew that was a part of my personality and how I live my whole life, basically. Is like, if we're on, nothing stops. Having a homestead, raising kids, various aspects of income coming and going off the farm for all the things that homesteading brings. You almost like, I hate to say that you have a board of directors with Nathan, but it's not just your considerations. It's all these people that you're living with and raising and having a whole life with. Basically, it's just so much more than what a normal 9-to-5 2-income family is having to deal with, because you're asking this other person that you guys are here because of your journey, but now you're asking this person to, hey, we're going to take some wild swings. Not all of them are going to work.
Yeah. No, it's trust, right? And I am so much like you. I am a recovering workaholic. For me, like it never stops.
I don't know about this recovering business.
That's true. Let's be honest. I am a workaholic and I have these ideas all the time. And I think the hard thing for homesteaders, or even if you are a farmer who owns your own business and you live on your farm, it never stops, right? It's not like I go to a job, I come home, I can put that aside, I can cook dinner, I can just worry about my family, because here I see all the things, right? I see the beds not, fully prepped. I see the cabbages that need to be harvested in the tunnel. I see all of these things. And so it's a constant reminder kind of that you're always behind in a way, and there's always things to do. And so for me, that's challenging. But when Nathan came on full time, that was a transition for us for sure, because we are so different, just in our personalities and how we work with our strengths and our weaknesses. But it's been such a blessing because I tend to overcommit, right? I want to say yes to everything. And Nathan's been like, whoa, like,
more pile to his stuff.
Right. So this morning I was writing for my planner and I just like had this, oh my gosh, like I had just all this inspiration. I want to write another book. And I'm telling Nathan, I was like, I could sign a contract today. Like, I am so excited. He's like, whoa. Like we are not there. I love you, but like pump the brakes. You're not writing another book right now. But I can get so inspired and so motivated that I want to jump to something immediately. And Nathan's that calm voice of, kind of like that board of directors, like, whoa, I know that this is what's on your list, for the rest of the year. You don't have the time commitment. I know right now you're really energized and inspired because I'm about to submit my final manuscript, but he's thinking about all the tasks we have all summer and what that looks like long term. And so it is so good to have that person. And now it's just like, I don't commit or say yes to something before talking to him. I'm like, hey, do you think I have the time and the space for this? Because for him to say yes to that, he's taking one of my home responsibilities, right? Like he's picking up dinner. He's doing laundry he's taking, kids to sporting events, which is a lot of what Nathan does. He handles a lot of our family home because I have more of those work responsibilities. And so it's just kind of this ebb and flow that we have to work through.
And you got all these weird people from the internet coming by and sitting down and taking up 2 days of your time.
No, that part we actually love.
So, well, throughout the day, we're recording a lot. I did want to define what homesteading meant to you on that following of other homesteaders and having those aspirations. One of the things that I always kind of worry about is somebody from down south looking at a homesteader up north or in one of those golden pockets where just everything grows all the time and comparing themselves and their success to that farmer. Because we talked about the mental aspects, but we haven't talked about yet is the physical aspects of you're in a different growing zone. Maybe your soil is completely different and the person that you connect to the most, that you haven't met, you're connecting with somebody via a feed, but their life is, I guarantee you, more chaotic than what it looks. And their whole growing situation and their market is different and their skill set is different. Their temperaments for patience or that drive that drives so many of us to work long into the night may be different. And that's another thing I just want to caution people to do as they're following, particularly homesteading, and especially on Instagram and TikTok, that it's not all that it seems.
No, I mean, of course, they're putting their best foot forward, right? Like, you're not going to, which, I mean, I actually do, because relatability to me is the most powerful tool that you have. Right. So if we have a failed crop, I'll use that as an opportunity to teach people. But in most cases, when you go to my feed or any of these other people you might be following, you're seeing the best parts of our farm, right? Like, you're walking around our farm, there's a lot of work going on.
Yeah.
I'm not showing the beds half built or infrastructure being put up. Like, I'm showing, look at these beautiful cabbages that are growing, because we want to inspire people, right? But you do have no idea, and I think that's so crucial, knowing your zone and soil health. Like, these people, my high tunnel is thriving. This is the 5th year of soil with amendments on there and cover crops planted, and that's 5-year soil, right? That's just got all this microbiome and it's golden, versus my new tunnel. Probably going to yield a little different. 1st-year soil and 5-year soil is totally different. And so you never know, just that alone plays a huge part in how much they're feeding their soil, how much time and attention are they giving it. If it's like me, this is my full-time job. I'm nurturing my gardens every day. This is something you're that hobbyist, probably not going to see those same results because you don't have the time investment into it. And so I think it is so important, again, know your lane, right? Like, just, and be comfortable and confident of, like, especially if you're a homesteader, a lot of people make homesteading look profitable. And if you're homesteading for sustainability and you aren't actually turning profit on that homestead, I wish more homesteaders were open about how they are bringing in income. Because if you are wanting to take that leap of faith and quit your job, most of them maybe they're retired military. Maybe they have there's other income streams, or maybe they are doing photography on the side, or they're still doing lawn care during the summer. Like, there are other ways they're bringing in income. And I wish that was something in the homesteading niche that got talked about more, because to quit your job, yes, you are reducing costs. Absolutely, right? Still takes a lot to live. You have house, you have mortgage, there are a lot of things there. And so be mindful of that. To make that commitment to quit your job, to come home to homestead, where's the money coming from? You're saving money, but you still need to be bringing in money to just cover your cost of living. And so you have to just be real careful, again, with just comparing yourself. You don't know really their whole story and how they make that work for their family. That sounds like a perfect reason to sit and have another episode of this. Let's explore some of the things that you've done, that I've done, that I've seen, and that you've seen other homesteaders do to diversify those income streams. Yeah. Let's explore that along with a host of other homesteading topics. I guess we'll see you on the next one. All right, let's do it.